A hybrid public meeting, which enables remote electronic participation is legally authorized by the Code of Virginia per the Planning Commission's electronic meeting policy adopted on July 7th, 2022. Members of the SPRC subgroup for the AFA project are participating both here in person and virtually through electronic means. At this time, I would like to orient everyone to our hybrid environment and cover a few specifics about how tonight's meeting will run. Members of the public may attend the meeting here in person or electronically by using the Microsoft Teams link provided to on the SPRC webpage, the project webpage, the county's event calendar, and the emails and notifications sent to the SPRC email subscribers. Additionally, there is a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. For our subgroup members joining virtually, if anyone loses internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you are called upon. Turn off sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. Would you like to continue, or?
I can do it. Thank you. My chair is so tall. We'll deal with that in a second.
Sit right here.
Great. For our virtual attendees using Microsoft Teams, please turn off your video feed. I will address when it's appropriate to turn it on in a moment. Microsoft Teams meeting chat is active to serve two purposes. For SPRC subgroup members who need technical assistance and for members of the public, add their names to the list for public comment, which will be taken at the end of the meeting. The team chat should not be used for discussion. Those who are planning to provide public comment will still need to do so at the end of the meeting, as the chat will not serve as that opportunity. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public comment period. If subgroup members participating virtually wish to be recognized to speak on an item during the course of the meeting, please turn on your video feed and raise the virtual hand in Teams. There's an edit there that I'll make. Those are words. I'll monitor the video feeds that are on as an indicator of who would like to speak. If subgroup members are participating via phone today without the video option, please announce your name and group you're representing now. I'll verbally check in to see if you wish to be recognized. As you do not have the video feed option to unmute yourself, you'll use *6 to unmute. Do we have any phone humans? Phone, not Teams, who are participating as members of the SPRC? Okay.
No.
One person.
One person who is phone only.
Yes.
And that's a member of the SPRC, not a public commenter.
It's hard to discern, but I would assume not.
Phone human, can you *6 yourself to tell us who you are?
Aaron Roberts.
Aaron Roberts.
Thank you.
Got it. Okay, so we're good. Additional notes for our members of the public who would like to provide feedback and comment. For our members of the public who would like to provide feedback and comment, you'll be called on to speak at the end of the meeting. You'll be allotted a number of minutes based on that, to speak on tonight's agenda item, and I'll determine how many minutes once we know how the rest of the meeting is going. The speaking time allotted will depend on the number of speakers we have this evening. I just read the next sentence. If you wish to speak, please enter your name in the meeting chat for virtual attendees or provide staff with your name if in person. You'll be added to the speakers list. Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to Freedom of Information Act requirements. Did I get it all?
Great job.
Great, thanks so much. Great, so the person whose phone only is not.
He is with the NHC.
NHC, okay, got it. All right, thank you. So we will need to check in occasionally to see. Okay, cool. Great, so we did welcome, that was welcome. Introductions, let's start. Hi, Sarah Steinberger. I'm chairing this SPRC. Thanks for joining us tonight. To my left, we'll go this way.
Adriana Torres, co-chairing.
My name is Tony. My name is Tony Strider. I'm here with the Planning Commission.
Jim Lantelli, Planning Commission. Steve Zockwell, Forestry and Natural Resources Commission.
Kevin Vincent on the rep from the Climate Change and Environmental Committee.
Stanley Peterson, Planning Commission. Sia Bagley, Planning Commission.
Sam Giacomo, North Roslyn Civic Association. Rafi Balian, Palisades Park Owners Association.
Suzanne Files, Tycoon Property Partners.
Andrew Painter with Walsh Colucci.
Taylor Burgess with Land Design, Landscape Architect.
JP Gonzalez with WDG Architecture.
Daniel Creer with Arlington County DES.
Curtis Willis, CPHDE.
Chrissy Wallentush with Planning Division.
Great. In the back, do we already?
Mike Pinkowski with LICA Transportation. Jeff Krebs with Leica Civil Engineering.
City Abdulrahman, WDG Architecture.
Tycoon Public Partners.
Beth Piles, Tycoon Property.
Okay, and I'm assuming that the folks in the back, if you have questions that pertain specifically to your area of expertise, you'll tag them in, so on and so forth. Okay, let's hit the team as peoples. Starting with, well, we already covered you, Christy. Aaron from NHCA,
Yes, same Aaron Roberts as is
Yes.
calling in.
right? So he's on twice.
Yes.
Okay.
Aaron, do you want to announce yourself?
Or not? Okay. I see we have a raised hand. Is that who's raising their hand already? Oh, and so we have Pam Van Hine. Thanks,
Hi,
Pam. Oh, yeah,
Pam Van
please.
Hine with the Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Okay, excellent.
So I'm going to flag for you the SPRC.
Okay, I was gonna say this is challenging.
Ashton.
Okay, is SPRC,
Yes.
great.
Do you want them to introduce themselves?
Yeah, if you're on the SPRC and Chrissy called your name, please announce yourself.
Great. Ashton?
Hi, Idem Muradovich, with the Transportation Commission. Sorry, I'm not able to attend in person, filling in for Sahel Hussein, who was initially supposed to be the commissioner on this, but happy to be a part of this. Thank you.
Great, thanks for joining.
And then Alyssa is with NBC2, who owns the Conservation Trust.
Okay, Alyssa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks so much for having me. Alyssa Hemler, Stewardship Specialist with Northern Virginia Conservation Trust.
Excellent, thank you. Ben Keeney,
Hi, guys. Ben Keeney, North Highlands.
great, thanks for joining. Commissioner Robertson?
Peter Robertson, Planning Commission.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if this is, but I don't.
Okay, if you're a member of the assigned SPRC group for this and you were not given the opportunity to introduce yourself over Teams, please raise your hand now. Great, we got everyone. Okay, cool beans. In that case, we've done welcome and introductions and staff. Please
Okay.
present.
Great. Thank you all for coming to the second and final SPRC for the Air and Space Force Association site at 1501 Langston Boulevard. We have a pretty brief presentation, especially my part. I'm going to turn it over to Daniel to discuss transportation. So the agenda for this presentation, which is going to also, it's also the discussion topics for this evening include parking and loading, streetscapes, the Custis Trail improvements, environmental impacts, which mostly refer to the resource protection area, and the open space and landscaping, sustainability, construction details, then process and next steps. Okay, so just as a refresher for this project, in the upper left-hand corner, we have a view from Langston Boulevard and North Oak Street of the existing office building that was built in the 1980s. In the lower left-hand image, you can see a site design of the proposed building with some points to call out. In the upper right-hand image, you can see a rendering of the proposed building from Langston Boulevard, North Oak. And then in the lower right-hand image, you can see a rendering of the building of the museum, which is proposed on the ground floor from the southwest corner of the building. Okay, turning it over to Daniel.
Thanks, Christy. I'm Daniel Creed with the Department of Environmental Services. I'm covering the transportation aspects of this application. The site is located at the corner of Langston Boulevard and North Oak Street, and the property is served by multimodal transportation options, including a nearby ARC bus stop located just east of the site along Langston Boulevard. Additionally, the Roslyn Metro Rail Station and associated bus bays are approximately a third of a mile southeast of the site. The site is subject to the transportation policy found in the Master Transportation Plan, or MTP, and the Langston Boulevard Area Plan. On the right is an excerpt of the Master Transportation Plan map with the site highlighted. The MTP identifies the adjacent segment of Langston Boulevard as a Type B, primarily urban mixed-use arterial road. And the MTP designates North Oak Street as a non-arterial local street. And the Langston Boulevard Area Plan provides streetscape guidance, which I'll cover on the next couple slides. We'll now review the proposed site access. On the screen is shown a plan of the site with north oriented to the top of the screen. The applicant proposes a 3-level below-grade parking garage. The applicant will reuse the foundation of the existing office garage. The applicant proposes 141 spaces for residential and residential guest use at a ratio of 1.6 spaces per unit, and 3 spaces for the museum use at a ratio of 1 space per 500 square feet. 2 loading spaces are proposed to be located internal to the garage. The loading and parking garage are both accessed from a single entrance from North Oak Street. This entrance also includes a drive aisle for a one-way porte-cochere or motor court that exits through a curb cut further south on North Oak Street. The applicant proposes bike parking in the form of 37 Class 1 bike spaces in a proposed bike room along the southern portion of the building. Direct bike room access is provided to the abutting segment of the Custis Trail. The applicant proposes to remove a westbound travel lane from Langston Boulevard, a segment of the existing sound wall, and widen the Custis Trail along Langston Boulevard. Now we'll look at the proposed street conditions, starting with Langston Boulevard. The changes are summarized in the chart above. Again, the applicant does propose to reduce the overall width of the westbound Langston Boulevard street section by reducing the travel lanes from 3 travel lanes down to 2 travel lanes. Langston Boulevard is a VDOT maintained roadway, and any modifications to the lane configuration will require VDOT approval. The existing sound walls serve Interstate 66. Any modifications to the sound wall will require approval from the Federal Highway Administration. The applicant is proposing a 43-foot wide streetscape consisting of a 13-foot landscape buffer, a widened 12-foot wide Custis Trail, and an 18-foot wide building zone and landscape buffer. And the Langston Boulevard area plan does not provide specific streetscape sections, but does provide recommendations on how a proposed residential building should interface with the Custis Trail. If the sound wall is removed, the plan recommends street trees between the road and the trail, a 20-foot landscape buffer between the trail and the building, and an overall building setback from Langston Boulevard of 45 feet. The Langston Boulevard area plan also designates the intersection of Langston Boulevard and North Oak Street as a potential location for future intersection study. The plan identifies several intersections where there are opportunities to achieve Vision Zero goals and improve intersection operations. The Custis Trail crosses North Oak Street at this intersection, and the plan recommends that the intersection study evaluate opportunities to create more comfortable pedestrian crossing and manage trail interactions. The applicant has submitted a study. And next we will look at North Oak Street. There are no specific recommendations for North Oak Street in the plan, but in general, the plan recommends that sidewalks should provide a minimum of 6 feet of unobstructed clear space for pedestrians and a minimum of 7 feet for street trees along the street edge. The applicant proposes to reduce the width of North Oak Street by reducing travel lane widths. And the applicant proposes a 20-foot wide streetscape measured from the building face that above the second floor, consisting of a 7-foot street tree zone, a 6-foot wide clear sidewalk, and a 7-foot landscape zone. And a portion of the building is recessed on the first floor, and that provides the covered motor court or porte-cochere. And beneath there is an 8-foot parking lane and a 14-foot wide drop-off lane / drive aisle and a 9.5-foot wide building zone. The county published a Custis Trails Needs Assessment in 2024, and the study examined the existing conditions of the trail and made recommendations for future investment in the trail. The study recommends widening the trail to a minimum width of 12 feet or wider for portions of the trail with higher volumes, the provision of trailside amenities, and safety improvements. As mentioned earlier, the applicant is proposing to widen the trail from 10 feet to 12 feet, and the applicant is also proposing lighting improvements, a bicycle fix-it station, seating areas, and other trailside amenities. To protect water quality in sensitive areas along Arlington streams, certain areas have been designated as resource protection areas. A resource protection area is an area designated by the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance that typically includes a 100-foot buffer around protected wetlands, streams, tidal shores. And as currently designed, a small portion of the proposed building in the northeast corner is within the RPA and will require an RPA exception. RPA exceptions are reviewed by the Chesapeake Bay Ordinance Review Committee, or CBORC, and requires a public hearing. And the project must be approved by the CBORC or any required mitigation included prior to the county board hearing.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. All right, so turning to open space and landscaping, there is of course the conservation easement that is located on the southwest portion of the site. The easement is held by the Northern Virginia Conservation Trust, so we have a meeting tonight and we'd like to hear from. There is not much area plan guidance for the any sort of treatment for the conservation easement. The area plan pretty much just notes the existence of it and states that the existing easement trees within it should be conserved, which is what is proposed. So it will remain largely untouched except for the removal of invasive species and the inclusion of a new pathway. And I believe the applicant has a revised design, which we'll see tonight on their slides. Okay, as far as area plan conformance for open space and landscaping, the tree canopy coverage guidance recommends a tree canopy coverage percentage of 35%, which the applicant is far achieving by the provision of 53%. And then for the private open space requirement or recommendation, the area plan guidance is 15%, and the applicant is proposing 49.7%. And that comes in the form of, the private open space comes in the form of all of their terrace and rooftops and everything. So that's where we're getting such a high percentage. For sustainability, the overarching goal for sustainability and resilience in the area plan is to transform the Langston Boulevard into a green corridor with street trees, increased landscaping, impervious surfaces, overland relief, and environmentally sustainable and energy efficient buildings. This project, as proposed, is largely in accordance with that. As a reminder, they are not participating in the green building incentive policy and therefore do not need to achieve any additional density through the provision of green building measures. However, in lieu of that, or not considering that, the applicant is still proposing LEED Gold Green Building certification, all electric Energy Star appliances, at least 20% energy cost savings, water and air quality efficiency measures, and also the reuse of existing garage foundation. I believe the applicant also will go into much more detail on their slides on these measures as well. Okay, then going into a little bit about the construction impacts. So what I've outlined here on the slide are the standard conditions for all site plan projects. We typically work out these details after SPRC concludes during the negotiations leading up to the advisory commission hearings and the county board hearings. So we have not finalized any of these details. We haven't even begun discussing them, but we thought given the site's proximity to residential housing, both the north and the west, this might be of consideration or concern to some of the residents in the meeting today and on the call. So just want to highlight what you can expect for standard conditions. And if these are tweaked in any way, we can discuss them tonight, then we can update the SPRC as the project nears the finish line, if you will. So the first is to require a pre-demolition meeting with adjacent properties, and that's worked out through a community liaison that's outlined in the conditions, and to require a parking plan and free off-street parking for construction workers and a plan to encourage transit and carpooling. Standard construction hours are 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekends and holidays. Any work that affects utilities needs advance notice to neighbors. Community liaison, which I mentioned, must be designated and available to take questions and complaints, and that is for the developer to appoint a liaison for the community. And then construction hauling routes need to be approved by the county and posted on the site. And the applicant and the project must follow all federal, state, local permits and environmental laws. Okay, looking quickly at the anticipated public review process and schedule, we are now at the final of 2 SPRC meetings. Topics for the online engagement. Both SPRC meetings are listed on this slide, so hopefully we're getting through everything this evening, which I know Commissioner Steinberger is so good at doing. Then we'll move on, hopefully, to advisory commissions and the county board in September. So we'll have plenty of time over the summer to review any sort of final tinkerings with the project. And again, we'll update the SPRC if anything major changes between now and September. And that concludes staff's presentation.
And just a reminder, there is not a planning commission meeting or county board meeting in August, just for timing purposes for folks. So that contributes to the schedule. Okay, great. Applicant presentation.
So thank you very much, Madam Chair. We're going to try to share our screen and hopefully it works. If not, I believe Ms. Wallenfish has the backup slides. Again, Andrew Painter with Walsh Colucci. So we are going to talk about transportation first, then we're going to talk about open space. We'll talk briefly about building sustainability and then close with community benefits. And Mike Pinkoski with Bike is going to take the lead on that. I did want to recognize Abby Beal, who is with Sustainable Building Partners. They are our building sustainability consultant. And then Stephanie Pankenwitz has also joined, who's working with Taylor from Land Design on the open space. I did want to say before I recognize Mike, though, this has been trying to thread a needle, an emphasis on really like lived experiences that people know that are happening with the trail and North Oak Street, pedestrian safety, bicycle safety. And then we also heard during the online engagement, the width of the trail is a concern. Just because it says a minimum 12 feet doesn't mean it has to be 12 feet. It can be more. So we've spent the last couple of weeks and since our first SPRC working on that. And as Taylor and Stephanie will talk about, we have really focused also on renewing thoughts about biophilic design, opening up the site for that conservation area. We're also trying to thread a needle there between a connection point to the north on the PPOA property and how that could be memorialized in the future potentially, but also running into the reality of what needs to be reflected at this juncture with the zoning. So on all these things, we are excited about the progress that we've put together. At the end of time, at the end of the presentation, if there's time, with the indulgence of the chairs, we do have some updated architectural drawings. We have material board as well that we can show. So I'm going to stop talking here. I'm going to turn it over to Mike, who will lead us through the first part of our discussion, which is transportation.
Hi, everyone. Again, Mike Pinkoski with VICA. Go to the next slide. Again, just to orient ourselves, we're at the intersection of North Oak and Langston Boulevard. The site today currently has 3 driveway curb cuts. The red indicates the loading dock entrance, and then the 2 blue represent driveways. The middle arrow goes straight into the garage, and there is a porte cochere lay-by area today, which is the southernmost stop. The curb cuts account for maybe just about 60 to 65 feet of our frontage today. And you'll see on the next slide, we are consolidating access at the red area. So we're positioning our driveway as far away from the Langston Boulevard intersection as possible. That curb cut is being reduced from just over 40 feet to 24 feet or 25 feet. And then, as Daniel mentioned, we are proposing to retain a porte cochere with 2 kudo spots. And that is going to be one-way counterclockwise, and that curb cut will be 12 feet. So we've reduced the driveway width essentially in half from what the existing condition is out there today. Bullet 3 there represents a new streetscape that will be put in today. If you're familiar with the site, you have these driveways, and then you have a small segment of brick sidewalk. No street trees today, so there's no buffer between the pedestrian and the road today. That will change with this proposal. And then 4, 5, and 6 represent the removal of a portion of the sound wall. Today, the sound wall comes all the way up to the intersection, creates a tunnel, limits visibility down the trail for both users of the trail and drivers on Oak Street. 5 represents the widening of the trail. Daniel mentioned 12 feet. We are studying and are proposing 12 feet behind the wall. And after you pass the wall, we're proposing to widen it to 16 feet. And then at the intersection, it'll narrow back down to 12 feet just at the crossing. And then 6 represents the closure of 1 westbound lane. There is a curb extension there today, which effectively reduces the capacity for throughput at the intersection. And essentially what we're doing is proposing to extend the length of our frontage and remove that travel lane. Slide. So here's a both plan view of the rendering on top and section view. A little bit of an update from what Daniel had shown is the way that we're breaking up the space from the curb to the building, 12 to 16 feet for that Custis Trail, reducing the building zone slightly and the landscape amenity panel slightly, still meeting the VDOT minimums for the landscape area. And then again, 2 travel lanes westbound. North Oak Street, we are effectively narrowing this segment of North Oak Street from where the parking starts and at the northernmost point. We're bringing the curb out and extending that to where the existing curb is today at the intersection. And that allows us to get in the landscape panel with the trees and a wider sidewalk. Very important for the project.
for share, carport. Given the site's location and being on the west side of North Oak Street, if we weren't to have these spaces available, there's a couple parking spaces there. You know, you might start seeing cars do 3-point turns very close to Langston Boulevard to position themselves on the right side of the street, or go up into the neighborhood, find an intersection to turn around and have to come back down. So we think it's very important to provide these 2 spaces for the pizza guy or just short-term deliveries. One other thing, just stay on that slide, I'll mention. Today, the way that the loading dock is oriented, a truck has to pull down North Oak Street and then back into the loading dock. With this design, the truck will pull straight into the garage and complete that turning maneuver within the garage. So we did a couple different studies as part of this. We did a safety assessment of the Quinn Street and North Oak Street intersections, looking at crash data provided by VDOT. We did an operational analysis for VDOT as part of the justification of the removal of a portion of that lane. And then we did a multimodal overview that summarizes all of the multimodal transportation elements that are available to future tenants. Excuse me. So what we have here is the multimodal trip generation, the expected hourly auto trips, as well as person trips. And then on the right, we have pedestrian traffic and some of the bicycle traffic that was observed during the peak hours. So Daniel covered this pretty thoroughly. We do have a 1.6 parking ratio for the multifamily. It is a for sale product, and that 1.6 does include visitor parking as well as staff parking for the building. A couple museum spaces also. Day one, 4.9% EV spaces. That equates to 7 spaces with an additional 16% EV ready for another 23. So that would be a total of 30 spaces. That would be either EV first day or EV ready. We have 8 accessible spaces and 9% compact. Next slide. So I just wanted to show this slide so people would be oriented within the garage. Again, we are staying within that area of the existing garage. So it'll be counterclockwise circulation. Once you enter the garage, the loading area is right here. So the truck will pull in and then back into the loading dock and pull straight out. And then you would circulate down about 11.5 to get to the bottom. Next slide. The purpose of this slide, I wanted to show where the bike room is in its relation to the trail. So the main bike room in the building exits straight out from this door onto the trail. And then in front of the museum, as well as at the corner, we have short-term bike parking.
I just want to level set. By my timing, you're halfway done, but you're not halfway done your slides. You might.
Almost done.
Okay.
One left.
Okay, that's fine. No, I was going by number of slides that I understood. Continue.
I usually talk fast. Sorry.
It's okay. No, it's very easy to understand you, but just wanted to level set.
Auto movements again. This is just what I explained. Trash and the loading. The max size truck that the building can accommodate is a single unit 30-foot truck. Then in the upper right, we did an auto turn for an Escalade to get into one of those Pudo spaces. Next slide. This is again to what Chrissy had mentioned earlier. These are standard site plan conditions for TDM plan. So we expect to commit to a TDM plan as part of this application. That's it for transportation.
Taylor, take it away.
So he had one more slide.
Yeah.
It didn't count. No, sorry. I see how you work. Okay. There you go.
Jeff, did you want to talk to these real quick, or you want to?
Oh, we can do a
minimal stormwater treatment. So, I mean, the short answer is there's no stormwater management on site today. We're proposing to meet state and county regulations through a combination. You've all heard this routine before, right? There's a combination of vegetated green roof, stormwater planters, wherein we take the rainwater that falls on the roof and direct it through the rain leaders to the planters. And then we've also, those two things help to meet the state standard for runoff reduction. So that allows some absorption and transpiration. Then lastly, we are actually reducing the amount of impervious surface on the site by a little bit. So all of those things together add up to a much better picture. Everything that lands on our site, within the building will be controlled. And so that's just basically what these slides say, is that we are meeting both the state and the county's guidelines for requirements for both water quality and water quality treatment. So there's one next one, and I think it just summarizes. Oh, this is the RPA. We did a water quality impact assessment or analysis. We submitted that to the county. That was the mechanism by which they recognized that there was a little tiny piece, about 11 square feet of the building was up in the air, but nevertheless, it was into the RPA. So happy to report that, and our architect will talk a little bit more about this later, but the big reveal is that the building's been pulled back. There's no need for an RPA exception request. So that'll shorten all of our hoops we have to jump through. So anyway, that's it for stormwater stuff.
So for open space and landscape, one of the uniqueness about this project is that, nature isn't off to the side. What we really kind of tried to do is integrate that and weave it throughout the project to kind of bring this green space down in front of the Custis Trail and then really green up a lot of these terraces. And you can kind of see that in this site plan. There's not just green in one little corner, it's kind of throughout the project. We did that really by looking at these tenets of biophilia, which is, again, interaction with the natural environment, creating more spaces for natural environment. 2, looking at natural forms and shapes that occur in nature and kind of taking that curvilinear organic forms and really introducing those and playing off those in the project. One of the unique things about light in this project is it isn't just about tons of light. We're kind of taking moments of lots of light and compression and then opening back up again. You can see that just through some of the space on this plaza, which will have more light, and then kind of the compression of the conservation zone, which has a dense canopy. That light kind of leads into the sensory experience, touch. We have lots of different materials happening here, wood, natural stone, all these kind of things that you want to touch and feel. The sounds and the smells, kind of accentuate with the different plantings. The human relationship, again, is really just trying to bring people into this site and bring people into the nature. One of the big things is right now, the conservation zone is just kind of there off to the side. We're really trying to celebrate it more and have people experience that space in the future. Again, and then the organic processes is just, as you have people experiencing these things, you're going to start to see some of these natural processes. They change in the seasons. You'll see the pollinator gardens as the new species will flourish. So really with those biophilia, you kind of get 4 distinct landscapes with this project. You get what we call the plaza and the trail, which is probably the more urban aspect of the project, where you have plazas, terraces, hardscape, seating, all those kind of elements that kind of coalesce around the trail in North Oak. Then you, of course, have the conservation easement as it exists today. With that, we're just looking to kind of remove invasives and replant natives. The third one is this buffer landscape, which is just going to be a highly dense evergreen plantings, some more ornamentals, really to kind of screen our property from the adjacent properties, not just to screen by sight, but also by sound, things like that. And then the last one is kind of these different terraces. The way the architecture is really unique, kind of keep flipping back and opening up to these different terraces. What we're doing with the architects is adding lots of extensive green roofs, but also some larger planters that we're putting taller trees and things against on the north and west to kind of, again, add a little additional buffer towards the neighbors. And then, of course, as people have already talked about, the big move here is the expansion of the Custis Trail. And we're kind of doing that twofold. One, as we mentioned, we're expanding to 12 feet everywhere. But then once we get past the Custis Trail, we're proposing to go to an additional 16 total feet. That has to happen over, I think, 60 feet. but then by the end we'll be at 16 and it'll kind of go back to 12. That'll align us with what's happening on the Marriott side, which is also 16 feet. So one, we think that's a great addition. The other real thing is that we're actually additionally adding another 16 feet to the Custis Trail, because this entire plaza terrace landscape is a series of plazas and ramps that get someone from down here at one very low grade all the way up to the conservation zone. You can see we've added a new ramp to kind of even bring ADA people, which right now cannot get up to this space because the trail unfortunately is not ADA accessible. They will be able to kind of transverse this landscape and get all the way to the conservation zone. So really, you're kind of looking at this whole thing as being a new Custis Trail. By adding this, we're hoping that more pedestrians will use that as opposed to being on the trail in this portion. And then I'm just going to run you quickly through some renderings that kind of show you this. Right here at the corner, you can see we're already kind of greening up that as opposed to having a giant sound wall and giant concrete steps. The entry to the plaza is got lots of luscious landscape, nice seating area, and kind of an interesting paving pattern that weaves you into it. Halfway up, you'll see the bike respite station, which is going to have a bike fixes and seating. We'll probably put in a water fountain, things like that, that are really geared towards the trail users to come off. And then up at the top of the terraces, we have this, we're calling the AFA Plaza, which is going to be kind of a nice little informal gathering space for either AFA Museum or potential other events where you can just have a small gathering of people. We have built-in amphitheater steps, terraces that get you up to the conservation zone, and kind of a wider swath here for those different activities to happen. And then again, we're going to do kind of an interesting paving pattern that kind of plays off the AFA logo. And then this here is just looking at that portico share that we've been talking about. Again, we're trying to bring green around. This is kind of playing off the same kind of organic forms of the building and the landscape to kind of bring in some green right in front of that portico share, kind of shield it from the outside. And then real quick, I know we're running short of time, the conservation easement, we have a full conservation invasive plant management plan. It's about a 3-year process. These are just some kind of the highlights of it. You know, we're going to go in there and try to get the woody shrubs first. That's the kind of year 1. It's also really important to get that English ivy, which is all over the place. So those are kind of the most prominent. In our 4.1, we're also calling out the tree of heaven, which are the invasive canopy trees that we're going to be taking down. All this happens as well as we start to take things down, we start to replant with natives to kind of reestablish that space. And then by year 3, we're looking at mostly being in a monitoring intervention stage, which means we're hoping that most of that stuff has worked, and we're just kind of monitoring for new growth of any of those invasives so we can come back in and continue to remove them. But we're hoping that that really starts to turn this conservation easement into an experience and a place for people to go. We've had discussions with county, Northern Conservation Trust, and we've kind of coalesced on a much more scaled back version of this path through the conservation easement. Right now, we're basically thinking that it's just going to connect to the end of our plaza and kind of weave you through just this kind of lower section. What that really allows us is to not really go in there and be tearing up a lot. We're not going to have any kind of erosion issues when we're doing this. We're looking at very minimal impacts with just timber steps and either a mulch or a DG ground cover for that. And then just to finish, it's got some renderings.
Are you the last speaker?
We can.
You can be the last speaker, and then I want to hear the architectural updates, and I want to see the materials.
Okay.
Thank you.
So then, yeah, this is just looking at that space. You can see it's kind of just a singular path now through the lower portion of the conservation unit.
So we can skip over the building sustainability gap, but that's not important.
Sorry. Would you rather, I mean, we can go, I'm trying to be cognizant of your time to discuss as well.
I've read all the sustainability stuff, so actually Loretta says I have a lot of comments, so we think it's good.
Are you okay with that? Okay, all right, thank you.
So I'm turning it over to JP right now to talk through just the architectural updates and provide some JP.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone, and thank you for all your feedback from the last meeting. So we understood from the previous renderings, the materials were a little hard to read, so we went back and, you know, really made our best efforts to represent them correctly. So this is a view from Langston and North Oak. And so starting from the base, so we actually just like we had before, we're proposing stone material. So you can see these strong vertical pillars along the first 2 stories of the building. So that's all going to be cladded in stone, which is right, that sample right there. And then they will have a complementary granite base. So, you know, this stone material is really it's a warm, natural material that I think will complement the neighboring properties really well. Also, on these 2 stories, we are also proposing the bird-friendly glass.
Sorry, which stories?
These 2 stories here. So everything that's where the stone planning is happening, that's gonna also have, we're incorporating the bird-friendly glazing. So similar to before, the middle and top, we are sliding with metal panels. So 2 very warm colors, which are also on the table for us to pass around and take a look at. Next slide, please. So this is a view from North Oak, looking south from the neighborhood. So we also have got a couple of recommendations to incorporate masonry into the building. So to the left, we have the porte-cochere, so the covered area. And then to the right, we have what is, you know, somewhat of a retaining wall. And very similar to what exists today, it is a brick wall. So we thought that it would be nice to incorporate this brick material along the other part of the property. So as we're transitioning, or that pedestrian experience coming from the neighborhood towards Langston Boulevard, it begins to break down the scale and have that nice texture and feel as we're walking down North Oak Street. And then in the top, will, you know, as the stepping occurs, will be glass and the 2-tone metal panel colors.
Those 2-tone?
Yes.
Great.
Next slide, please.
How many more slides do you have?
Just 2 more.
Okay.
And then, so there's a view looking east along the Custis Trails we're putting in the building. Again, this gives you a better, more close-up view of those stone materials that we are proposing along the base of the building. And next slide, please. And so, you know, one view that we were missing from the previous SPRC was what the building looked and feel like at the northwest property, essentially. So, you know, here we can see that the building is not flat. It is still dynamic in its essence of the massing with its step backs. You know, it still carried some architecture and feel. It was very important for us that the architecture carried through, right? So there is no back to the building. So all sides of the building are treated with equal importance and the quality of materials. So we can see here this diagram that we created. It really shows all that stepping in the back. It's a little bit calmer than what we're showing on Langston Boulevard, just because of that movement that occurs along Langston Boulevard. Here on the northern part, it's closer to the neighborhoods. We thought it would be calmer, more stacking. But again, it still has that stepping effect and 3D quality that we asked for in the previous meeting. Thank you.
All right. You're done. Thank you.
That was not a question.
But I do really appreciate that you brought materials. I think that's super helpful. I like it when applicants do show and tell. So this is one of my favorite parts.
Be careful though, it's kind of sharp.
Oh, okay. Please don't have any injuries. I'm not writing up that report. Okay, so I like to do a round of clarifying questions first before we jump into the actual agenda. For those of you who've done SPRC meetings with me before, I do have a hand in saying what is a clarifying question, what's not. If I don't think it's a clarifying question, I will tell you so, and we'll talk about it later. So with that said, I know I have a clarifying question. Any other clarifying questions in the room? And then I'll canvass internet people. Okay, then I'll ask my own.
I do have one, but can you go first?
Yeah, yes, I was going to anyway, but thank you. So, sorry, the 2 spaces that you mentioned outside, external to the site, is that the PUDO? Is that pick up and drop off? Okay, so okay, I just wanted to confirm that I understood that correctly. Okay, that was my clarifying question. It didn't buy you much time, Tenley. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, so my question is also about the portico and the pickup drop off, and on staff slide 7, there's like the building zone and the drop off. and it says proposed sidewalk, I think. I don't know if that's just a typo, because there's a car on the proposed sidewalk.
So we've asked them to correct that slide. I think that's supposed to say pick up and drop off. And just I'll add, while we're talking about the Port of Share, the 2 driveway entrances do require a waiver or modification of the horizontal design standards due to the number of driveways on North Oak and the intersection spacing there. So that's something we're still evaluating, and we're waiting. We've asked the applicant to kind of look at, and we want to see, also get the opinion of SPRC on that.
Okay, and so the actual portico, if they go in on the north side and there's room for a drop off and there's room for parking, or it's the width of 2 cars, that's what I couldn't quite tell. Like the applicant slides made it look like maybe there were little parking spots there, so I wasn't sure if the intent.
Yeah, there's 2 parking spaces and then a 14-foot drive aisle. And the parking spaces are 8 feet wide.
Okay, so if somebody's dropping off the kudo.
Yeah, so these are the 2 parking spots right here. Can you see?
Okay,
Little hand.
okay, so it's only 1 car width that there's like actively people driving.
Yes.
Okay,
And there is a sidewalk. There's a green space, and then the sidewalk is here, and then a landscape panel.
So it's 1 travel lane and 2 parking spaces.
Correct.
Okay. But that with a little hand is no, go back to where the little hand just was. No. Up to the right, up to the right, yeah, no, down to the left. These guys don't play video games. Sorry. So, yeah,
The parking
is that, those 2, is that one a parking space, then another parking
Yes,
space?
correct.
Okay, that- so they're like
2.
parallel parking spots.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, that's what I was trying to understand. Thank you. This is a clarifying question.
Yeah.
Okay, clarifying and clarifying.
And so when you're coming out of the garage, if you're a parked car in the garage, are you coming out that same exit way?
If you were picking someone up, you could drive through that, or you could just come straight out.
Okay, so you could do both
Yeah.
conceivably, if you're a resident.
Yes.
Okay. It's nice, I guess.
Sorry, clarifying question.
I have a mix of questions. I think some are definitely clarifying.
Sure, I'll let you know which ones I don't think are.
I will be able to ask the other questions.
Yes, 100%, yes.
So the type clarifying questions, you're going for lead gold. I think I saw a reference to lead version 4. Is that what you're looking at?
Yes,
And
that's what.
so are you looking at lead version 5 at all, which is the current lead? I mean, it came out last year.
No, we're using lead version 4.
Just lead version
Yeah.
4, okay. Then the other question that I have here, you have a 20% reduction of energy use is in the materials. I'm trying to figure out what your baseline is, 20% reduction from what?
It's based on the ASHRAE standard. I think Abby can elaborate a bit more, but it's based on ASHRAE
It's
standard.
from the ASHRAE standard?
Yep.
Okay, I've got notes here. I can clarify with you exactly which ASHRAE standard. Okay. Additional clarify. That's probably more further explanation. Okay, you talk about having the electric appliances, but you do have gas. You are going to have gas in this type of gas. So what is gas going to be for inside? I didn't see any references.
It's for
Water heating?
It's for cooktops and also for cooking, on the roof. But the rest of the appliances is gonna be electric.
So you will have gas cooktops and then what else?
For outdoor grilling, for like barbecue area, that kind of stuff. So typically those are, yes, yeah, it's pretty standard.
Okay. Question here. And then finally, when we did the walkthrough, I suggested, I know you want to wait when you deal with the removal of the invasives. I said, be really smart to go cut all the English ivy, which is topping the trees already, because they'll kill them even this year. Has that been cut, or do you still have English ivy crawling all over the trees?
We still have
The invasive removal has not
I
started.
understand, and I'm not asking for invasive removal where you pull things up, but it'd be really good to take clippers, because you can bring those trees down.
Okay, that's not
this year.
clarifying.
Yeah, okay.
I think we're in 2, but we're gonna be excited because I'm gonna.
But I just, you haven't done it, okay.
I see a hand, so, oh, sorry, yes.
Can we, it's unclear to me where the sound wall starts back up.
Can you go to that and clarify that for me, please?
So it starts up right here, kind of right as the AFA.
Oh, I see. So those, okay, so those trees will be outside of the sound.
Correct. Yes, they're in that lane that we're going to be taking back.
I see. Okay. And is that going to be the existing sound wall or is that a new
Yes.
sound wall?
Right now, it's the existing. We're just trying to.
You're just going to cut, okay. Can I ask a clarifying question because of the approvals needed from bodies that are not affiliated with the county? Have you received VDOT and the Federal Highway Administration? What's the status of their assessment?
We've made 2 submissions of the sound study and we're getting ready to make a 3rd submission in coordination with the county. They have asked that the county provide a letter of support. And then as far as the road narrowing, we've made 2 submissions of the traffic study for that and are waiting to hear feedback on the next step for that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna go to internet land. Ms. Van Hine. Hi, Pam.
Oh, thank you so much. Hi. And I can't really turn my camera on. My computer will crash. I have several clarifying questions about the motor court, please, if that's okay. Because I'm trying to understand exactly how drivers interact with pedestrians and drivers interact with each other. So there's one driveway in, it doesn't make any difference if you're a truck or going into the underground parking or going to Pudo. They all use the same driveway, right? Okay. All right. And I think one of the slides said that the exit for Pudo is only for Pudo, but you're saying that it could be for the drivers coming out of the parking lot or the underground parking as well. I assume the trucks aren't going to do that. They might not even fit under there. That could be possibly problematic. So both driveways cross the sidewalk next to Oak, right? And are you considering how you can improve the safe way for pedestrians who are using that sidewalk, whether there'll be signage? I think I saw coming.
Pam, that's not a clarifying question. That's gonna be, we'll handle that when we talk through the full transportation topic.
Okay. You said there's 2 Pudo spaces. The size is uniform for both of them. And how are you going to enforce time limits? And finally, how are you going to manage a bike delivery with Pudo?
Okay, so the time limit, that wasn't part of the presentation. I don't think that's a clarifying question. We'll talk to that as we get to the transportation topic. I think same thing for time limits on Pudo, that goes to kind of the enforcement piece. So I think that's also not clarifying. Clarifying questions from my perspective are really, I didn't understand, you said X, what number did you mean? That kind of like, did you say 5 or 10 sort of thing? Do you have any other questions, Pam?
No, the last one was bike Pudo. If there is bike Pudo.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go to Aaron. I see your hand is raised. Can you take yourself off mute? On either device?
Hi, am I coming through?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. I think clarifying questions for Chrissy. You mentioned something about a negotiation process for site plan conditions. Could you say a little bit about how that's done, who's involved when it takes place, and follow on clarification? Is that when something like public access to museum space would be discussed?
Well, I think we already have the answer to that last piece, but just generally for projects, we typically start discussing, we start with the standard site plan set, which is public information. It's posted on our website on the SPRC webpage, all the way down at the bottom. And then it was a last changed in 2022. And as we work through project specifics, as the project nears the finish line again leading up to public hearing, we make some minor tweaks to that based on the specifics of the project. So those are, and then what eventually comes out of that is the standards or the more draft set that goes to the advisory commissions. And then by the time we get to county board hearing, that's the finalized set that then gets adopted by the county board. So again, that will happen over the course of the summer. So we have plenty of time to do that. And then those will be finalized around July, August. And then I think the public access to the museum is already, it's open to the public, correct? You just have certain hours.
Right, and we have committed, Aaron, to making that space available to civic associations and nonprofits on a first come, first served basis.
Okay, very good. And then one additional clarifying question. Can you quickly summarize how we're making this intersection safer for cyclists? Is it the port cochere and pulling back the building? Is that largely the
Clarifying question, but we will handle that in the transportation topic, which we spend most of this evening on. But summarizing the presentation is not going to be a clarifying question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
No problem. Okay, any other clarifying questions? I know I'm a little bit of an ogre about this, but have a process. Okay, so I'm taking chair's liberty in consultation with like my friends that we're actually gonna start with sustainability because we did shortchange that on the presentation. So I do want to make sure we have a chance to start there. So I suspect maybe you would like to be recognized on sustainability, sir. There you go. Jump in. Floor is yours.
Let me start with the lead again. I would, what we ask applicants to do when they're coming in is take a look at the latest version of it, which is the version 5. And there may be reasons why that's too hard of a push, but you're really looking at the old standards. You're not trying to meet the latest when you're going to version 4.1. So we'd like to see if version 5 can't be met, what are the showstoppers there? Is something that the C2E2 is commenting on and making recommendations. Part of this process is one of the things we'd like to see. Part of that evaluation, we actually have a checklist. I don't know, have y'all seen that? So I'm just going to run down some of the items on the checklist. It'd be great to see you address them because I didn't see them in the presentations. One of the things we asked for is an evaluation of the zero carbon certification. Whether you looked at that, I didn't see that in there, and yeah, I'm not asking to address it now, but following up would be great. Also, when you make a commitment to LEED Gold, it'd be good to have some narrative discussion of how are you going to achieve. There's some there are some things that we dig into. We like to see kick the tires really from the C2E2 about how you're planning on getting there. And one of the areas in particular we focus on is the energy efficiency part, which we are highlighting. So some explanation on energy efficiency is really more explanation on energy efficiency is important, including the specification of the ASHRAE baseline that you're going to. It's probably going to be the 2010 baseline. And I'm not an expert on these baselines at all, but I know we can, oftentimes that's looking at really outdated information too to go against that baseline. That's the other notes we have here. So I know you've got Energy Star listed in the materials. One of the things that we are looking for is Energy Star 75. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but I know it's on our checklist. So, and if that's not attainable immediately from the beginning, we're looking for achieving it within a certain period of time. I assume you've got individual meters in this property. Is that the case? Okay, that's really a clarifying question. I should have asked before, but I saw you nodding your head yes, so that's good.
I don't have a rule about not asking clarifying questions during the discussion. I have a rule about asking discussion questions during the clarifying part. So you're fine.
I saw several times a reference in, even though you're not going for bonus density, that you talked about GVIP alignment. It'd be very useful to explain what you mean by how you're aligning with GVIP. And now we'll a couple ones we have specific questions on. So I know we asked about the electrical infrastructure, whether the electrical infrastructure is going to let you achieve the GVI baseline essentially. And do you have enough electricity on the site to electrify everything, including one thing we know from other projects, when you're doing the EV charging, did you actually account for that, for the electricity on site to actually electrify the parking as much as possible, which is a different point we'll get to in a second. So I think you indicated you've got electric water heating. Is that right? Okay, not gas. So electric water heating, and you've got fully electric HVAC, but you've got gas cooktops and got gas on the roof for the grills. So that's something will be on our checklist. You got that, said yes. Okay, on the parking, I saw that you put you met the bare minimum for GBIP of 4% for parking spaces and 15% for parking spaces EV ready. The C2E2 actually is recommending the applicants actually look at the current status of electric vehicles in this area. We've already gone way past that with electric vehicle adoption. If you're going to be trying to get the tenants in the building, get not tenants, but get the owners in the building that you want, you're going to need to provide more EV spaces than that, because Arlington in Northern Virginia is already about 20% electric vehicles, and that's going to keep going up every year. So you really need to provide more EV charging just to meet the real demands of the folks who are going to be living there. So what we recommend is at C2E2 is that you have 10% right from the beginning, and that you try to make 50% EV charging ready, so that you can add EV charging later to those spaces as you get more people living there with EVs. I didn't see any references to consideration of renewable energy or battery energy storage on site. I'm assuming that means it's not there. That is part of our checklist. So if you have any thoughts on that regard, please provide some information on that. The biophilia and the stormwater management, the bird-friendly materials, as part of our checklist. It looked really good to me. I think we got everything we need there. But there's some others on C2E2 might dig into it, but I think that was satisfied from what I saw. The last three things that we asked about are light pollution reduction. I did not see that addressed. Did I miss it? Is that something?
We are going to do dark sky.
Okay, good. All right. So we'll just, if you can beef up the information on that, so we can check that off, it'd be great. And then finally, we have water use. We advocate for the water sense label really on all the water use you have in the building. You may be planning on doing that, but if so, it'd be useful to let us know you're going to provide that material. And that is our checklist and really what we'd be recommending.
Okay, great. Any response from the applicant to all of that?
Okay, no, yeah, and Abby, I don't know if we can respond to all of it. I don't know if Abby, if you want
I
to
don't know if I want you to
speak to that. Yeah.
have other topics, but I did want to make sure we covered, while we're talking about sustainability, if anyone has anything on environmental impacts, I know that's called out as a separate item in our agenda for tonight, but in discussion with my friends here, we'll cover environmental impacts right now as well. If folks have anything to say on that topic.
Abby, sustainability, anything?
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
I won't take up too much time. I just wanted to make a note. There's no LEED version 5 available for LEED multifamily mid-rise. It's just strictly a LEED NC, update. So just something to note there. There's no LEED V5 for any multifamily mid-rise program.
Okay. I'm wrong.
But I'm happy to answer any of the other questions. But we are meeting all of the GBIP baseline requirements. And the bird friendly glass and the exterior light pollution reduction efforts that the team is doing is in alignment with GBIP. There's electric is being used where it can, and there's been a lengthy discussion and consideration of how we can maximize that while still being a little bit limited by obviously the utility. The baseline is ASHRAE 90.1 2010 Appendix G, which is mandatory for LEED V4 multifamily mid-rise when you do the performance path. I know that was asked. We're also going to maximize the heat island reduction options by using TPO where we can. The EV charging stations, I'll let the applicant speak to a little bit more. I know that there may be some limitations with the actual electric capacity that can be provided. All of the appliances are going to be Energy Star. All of the applicable water fixtures will be WaterSense. There's no WaterSense label for shower or for kitchen faucets, for example. And I think that might have covered everything, but please let me know if I can speak to anything else valuable.
Okay. I see hands. Okay, sorry, Commissioner Peterson, and then Commissioner Stein.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the gas cooktops that you're offering. So in the presentation, it mentions all electric Energy Star appliances. I think the woman who just spoke said that all appliances that can be electric are electric. But if you're having gas cooktops versus
Sorry, all
induction-
Energy Star. They can all be Energy Star, not electric.
Okay, if there's a way you can do induction stovetops, ovens, I think that's first of all very trendy. It's better for like pollution. It's better for like family safety inside the unit. We do see most applicants coming to us with electric induction ovens inside the units because they say that's what people are asking for. So if you can just relook at that and see, just gut check, like, is this actually the right choice to go with gas? Because everything I'm hearing is that people want the electric.
We'll take that into consideration.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I want to double tap that piece because typically we hear gas in other contexts, like the emergency generators. Usually the cooktops are really not the problem in terms of getting electric ones. So we're going to push for that. On the sustainability, on the biophilic design piece, I'm excited to hear that you all are exploring that. Those are topics that I personally really enjoy. I know many of my other colleagues do. I would make a pitch that that there's great opportunity for green walls, sort of speak like you see out in Wrigley Field almost.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. That especially, but not I. And
Redirect the English idea.
right, yeah, but I mean, especially in the transition areas from the conservation area, I think there's a really great aesthetic opportunity there to add some of those lively green spaces into the building and sort of a transition point. That's all I'll say on that.
Sorry, I'm getting updates from the nanny who explains. Tomorrow is crazy hair day at school, and so we're doing green gel in the toddler's hair, which is just delightful. Yeah, there's pictures. Hi.
Yes. So can I assume that the questions that were raised by our C2E2 rep this evening will be responded to maybe by you on the side?
Yep.
In enough time for them to do their reports and get to commissions?
Yes, Commissioner Bagley, yeah, we can do a separate sidebar conversation. We can respond to citing whatever's easiest.
Thank you.
Commissioner Peterson, and thank you, Commissioner Bagley, for raising that. We want to make sure that's highlighted. Thank you.
So it looks like you've got a lot of nice green roof or green terraces or just biophilia on the roof and the different levels. But you don't have any pictures of it. You just kind of have like, the mock-ups where you show what it would actually look like. There's no views from the northwest and northeast corner kind of looking down at the terraces. So when you come to Planning Commission, could you provide pictures of that? Because I'm sure they're going to look great.
Yeah, certainly happy to.
I do want to say I was really appreciative of the additional angles that you did show tonight for the remainder of the building. And I thought I appreciate it. I think it helped flesh out the building. Yes.
I want to echo that thanks and also the thanks for bringing in the materials to show the exterior. Can I ask about environmental impacts?
Yes,
Talking about,
this is the time.
yes, so can we go back to the stormwater? Yeah, that one right there, the one you just know, the one after. The one that is. Okay, so the building is going to be pulled back from that area in the corner. So if you go up a little bit on North Oak, it's a stormwater retention pond for Palisades Park. It's one of the 3 that we're responsible for taking care of for the county. That's the only one on our property. That area where you see the words Oak Street, the beginning of street, that's the lowest point. And when we have major storms, the water that pools there reaches flood levels. So we are going to have to do a major project there, which I think we need to do in coordination with you so that we can manage that repair in a way that makes this more effective for both your property and for the Palisades Park property. Because right now that low point is taking a brunt of all the stormwater that's rushing down from the height of that elevation at the top all the way down to the bottom of Oak Street, that corner. So if we can, whoever on the team, if we can just have a conversation to kind of talk through that, that would be helpful.
Because everything that falls on our site is being gathered, if you will, and directed to the stormwater. So we wouldn't we wouldn't be contributing.
You're not gonna contribute to the other stormwater?
No.
Where are you gonna channel your water?
Ours outfalls into Oak Street and then down and out. So everything is piped. What leaves the site is piped into Oak Street and then out, around and out. So it won't go toward you all.
Okay,
So
okay,
it shouldn't, what we're doing won't make what's happening now any worse.
okay, all right. But if we can
That's the
just
short answer.
coordinate,
Absolutely.
that would be
Happy
great.
to.
And then are we discussing construction impacts or we are not?
We will, you weren't there yet.
We're
That's
not,
not gonna
okay,
be at
all
the
right,
end.
then we
Yeah.
can get there. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So I'm planning to, oh, sorry, yep. Last comment on environmental impacts and sustainability.
I would like to ask if, for the planning commission meeting, you can provide shadow studies, because what you provided doesn't really show the shadows casting around the neighborhood, not just the building. And I'm pretty sure that the courtyard's gonna be impacted a lot by the design. So I would like to know what the shadows would be like at 6 AM, at noon, and at 6 PM. Preferably summer and winter, but if you just do winter, that's fine. And then, since the site visit, we requested that you provide a site section of how the building's gonna impact, the townhome neighborhood. So I still haven't seen that, either an elevation or a site section of the relationship between the building with, the townhomes. And ideally, it would just be a short section, but now I'm gonna request that you do both, long and a short section.
I thought those were. I'm just confused, but we have it.
I've never seen it on any of the presentations. I mean, if you can show us, that'd be great, but I still haven't seen it.
Might be good if you can get, if you guys exchange contact information so you can get the exact, if they think they have it, make sure that you're being directed to the correct location on the slides.
I think there were 50 backup slides in your presentation. We only posted the actual presentation. So
Okay,
it's
yeah, you're
probably
gonna have to
not-
crosswalk that one for us. She's not gonna go through 50 slides to find the right one.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for the public to see that you're making an effort to at least acknowledge that they are gonna be impacted.
Okay.
Are you clear as to what she wants?
Okay, and I trust you guys can exchange contact information more directly after this meeting. Okay. I'm now gonna take us back to the top of the agenda list. Just so we're clear, we've covered environmental impacts and sustainability, so we will not be re-hitting those items. We are now going back to transportation. Within transportation, we talk about parking and loading, streetscapes, Custis Trail improvements. I know some of the internet visitors, attendees had some questions about that. I think Pam, if you want to be recognized, I think some of your questions, yep, your hand's up. Yep, I see you, Pam. I'm calling on you, Pam. You get to go first on transportation.
Thank you, and I apologize for asking some non-clarifying questions the first time.
Apologies needed. Your time is now.
Okay, I think the first one that I was stopped at was the driveways crossing the sidewalk on Oak, and what can we do to improve pedestrian safety crossing both of these sidewalks. Things like lighting, signage, different surfaces. I think I noticed in one of the slides for the motor court, there actually was a different road surface on the motor court than would be on the sidewalk and on the street. Is that true? I think one of the most important things is going to be making sure that the crossings are well lit and having signage to watch out. And I did notice that you have this great sidewalk from the building entrance that's going to go over to Oak and around the corner, and that is not necessarily a feature of other motor courts, and that does mean that the tenants are going to have, or the residents will have safe passage over to Oak and other places. I'm more concerned about the pedestrians actually using the sidewalk and crossing the driveways. Let's see. One of my questions about the Pluto spaces is how will you enforce time limits? And I have a lot of concerns about driver-driver interactions. And if there's only one way in and you have 3 types of drivers going in, they all have to go in the same driveway. People going to the underground parking will be crossing the path of the trucks, and people going into the Pluto area will be crossing both the parking entrance and the truck entrance, and they're going to have vehicles coming out at them. That is correct. That seems, I'm curious how you're going to manage that. It seems a little bit like you're going to have conflict between drivers and drivers. So I think those are my main questions about motor court. And I have other transportation questions, but I'll stop right now.
I have an answer and maybe turn it over to Mike, but I think from a pedestrian crossing perspective, we are prioritizing the pedestrian at that zone, so there's no difference at all when people step across the entrance, one of those entrances to where the sidewalk is. That's just on that. Understood your request for additional lighting, sign, or different treatment. We can at least look at potential different treatment, maybe make it similar to what the motor court is, but we'll talk about that. For the pickup drop-off spaces, I think the enforcement of those time limits would be done through internal building management. They will probably be signed for short-term drop-off and pickup for 15 minutes or so, 10 minutes, whatever that happens to be. But again, the alternative to not having that is that everything would have to be on North Oak Street, which we're trying to get the cars off of there. And then I think the last question was about the potential conflicts. I would just remind too, this is only 88 units. So I think the potential for conflicts, it's not hundreds of units, it's a relatively small amount. Again, the alternative is to have people do 3-point turns on North Oak Street. But Mike.
Yeah, all great points. And everybody should remember that, we're looking at this in plan view, but there'll be a roof over top of the portico share with additional lighting. So the portico share itself is going to be very well lit. I'll mention again, we're reducing the driveway width substantially. Today, it's essentially just a sea of pavement out there. So we are narrowing the driveway widths. Today, loading vehicles back into the loading dock, which is dangerous for anybody on the sidewalk. Now they're going to be pulling head in, head out, which is the county's preferred option for that. I think that covered all our questions.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, and the sidewalk question, the sidewalk could be a continuous flush treatment, and there'll be aprons at the entrance and exits.
Yeah, and warning signs to watch out for pedestrians and lighting. I appreciate the lighting under the overhang, but I don't think it quite reaches the sidewalk. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Commissioner Lantelmi, and then we're going to go to Aaron online, and then we're going to Commissioner Schreiner. Someone's gonna remind me of that, but we'll start with Commissioner Lantelmi.
Thank you. What I want to focus on is Langston and Oak Street. This has come up in an earlier SPRC for a different project, that this whole stretch of Langston from Roslyn to I-66 is really a very poorly designed road for current conditions. I'm thrilled that you're looking to narrow it to 2 lanes. I think that's part of the Langston Boulevard area plan is ultimately to have that be 2 lanes in each direction all the way through the entire thing. A study will be coming up. The Planning Commission is on record to try to accelerate that study. I want to make sure that anything we're doing here will not interfere, will prevent further development of Langston in the direction we want it to go. The Oak Street Langston intersection is very, very dangerous. It's one of the highlighted Vision Zero hotspots for the entire county. And it is part of the study. And of course, there's a VDOT study going on right now, which includes this particular intersection. So there's so many wheels going on right now that I want to make sure that we're not going to be ever working at cross purposes, that everything we do here is consistent with what comes out of, or what we want to have coming out of both the VDOT study and the county study for the ultimate redesign of that entire long stretch of Langston Boulevard. And I'll probably want to emphasize that at Planning Commission again, and at Transportation Commission, because both commissions are on record about this. What Ms. Van Heim was saying about the safety for pedestrians and also the bikes, you're narrowing Oak Street. I'm strongly supportive of it. That'll just naturally slow traffic along Oak Street. But I'm still concerned about the actual intersection, and not even on your property. It's across the street on the Marriott side, where it still seems to be not quite the sharp curb that really should be. There's that turn lane there. it still needs further study from the county, and that's not your problem, it's not your problem as the developer here. This is a larger holistic issue we have to deal with. So I just want to emphasize that at this meeting, that this is something I will be raising again, a planning commission and a transportation commission, because it is a larger issue that your development just adds an additional reason why that has to be done sooner rather than later. Coordination with VDOT. And if you cannot get VDOT and the Federal Highway Administration go along with removing it, will you still be able to continue? Or even if they take a long time, which I'm afraid they will, given our history with them, will you be able to move ahead with the project even if they do not come up with the tear down that the sound wall in a timely fashion? That's sort of a question I have, and I think this wasn't a clarifying one, it was actually a substantive one. So how does that work with what they do and what you need to do? Because I wouldn't want this project to be delayed because they're taking so long to make a decision on the sound wall.
Well, I think as you are aware that the sound wall has pretty substantial impact of not just the building of the entire site, entire intersection in the neighborhood. So that's why in the very beginning, we are advocating that if there's a way by redeveloping the site, we can also improve the safety of that intersection. So we hope we can make that and tie that together, and we'll make our best effort. As you can see that our consultant team already meet with the VDA and the Federal Highway more than 2 times. So we are actually trying to expedite that and hope to achieve public safety while we're redeveloping the site.
But the sound wall itself, that's almost a separate issue. And can you move ahead if they're?
I think it would take a site plan amendment to come back through and show a different configuration. The building itself should be okay,
Yes.
but it's the distance between, it's the width of that. So I think it's probably going to be a major amendment that we have to come through if
it
doesn't
just
work.
isn't happening, okay? Because I wouldn't want this project to be stopped or held up because VDOT and Federal Highway Administration can't make a decision.
So just to get into the weeds on the sound study a little bit. The way that we position the wall and, pulling it back, we're using the building itself as a sound barrier.
Yeah,
So
I know
we
that.
have that, but
Yeah.
we're down to a couple comments with the state.
Mhm.
And then the state is handling the coordination with Federal Highway after we address all the state's comments. The state is coordinating directly with Federal Highway. So that's kind of taking the Federal Highway relies on the local state to make the recommendation.
Okay.
The one thing we're dealing with now from a sound perspective is the users of the trail. VDOT has asked us, and that's why I mentioned earlier, we need a letter of support from the county. VDOT is asking how we mitigate sound for the trail users. Obviously, when you take the wall down, you can't mitigate it, but the trail itself goes in and outside of the wall. Just on the other side of the intersection, there is no wall. So it's kind of a silly comment, if you will, but we still have to address the comment. So that's why we're looking for the letter of support from the county.
DES, are you going to be giving that letter in a timely fashion? Will
So
you be able to give that letter?
the trail is owned by VDOT and it's maintained and operated by Parks and Recreation. And so we've requested that Parks and Rec issue that letter, and I've given our reasons for it. It's outlined in the Langston Boulevard area plan and the Custis Trails Needs Assessment, the desire to have the sound wall removed and the travel lane removed in this location. So we are supportive, and that letter, I believe, being drafted currently.
So we have a third entity now involved, Parks and Rec. But I may miss it. Did you say Parks and Rec is going to approve or?
There's a letter being drafted.
It's drafted. Okay, so it is in process.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, all.
Be a big problem when we have that letter to submit that as support, additional support with the study itself. And then it kind of checks that box, if you will, from the state's perspective that the locality is behind the removal.
I'm totally supportive of removing the wall and making the improvements that you have there for bikers, pedestrians. This is like a real win all around for the county. So I'm glad to hear it's moving ahead. Thank you.
And we do have Walter Gonzalez online with DPR.
Yeah, good evening, Walter with Parks Department. Jim, to answer your question, we are working on the letter. It's drafted. It's just being reviewed currently by our leadership to make sure we're all okay with what's on the letter. But we are in coordination with DES on getting that letter to them, hopefully in the coming week or two.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's good to know.
Yep.
Okay, I said Aaron would be next. So Aaron, you are now that person.
Wonderful. So I want to echo Commissioner Lentelmi's very thoughtful comments. I won't repeat them, but want to associate myself with them. Two-part question. Am I understanding correctly that the major active ingredients for making this intersection safer in the current proposal is pulling the building back and the addition of the porte cochere that will increase visibility? So that's part one of the question. And then part two of the question, are there other things that you may have considered for this intersection that could make it materially safer that you've ruled out? And could you share with us what those were and why you ruled them out? Thank you.
So from a building format, it might be better for the architect to answer, but if you're aware of the intersection or have been through it, the sound wall does come right to the intersection today. By removing a portion of that sound wall, that will increase visibility for trail users and drivers alone. Obviously, we have that grand staircase on the corner today, which also impacts the view. So the new building form will help visibility as well. We are aware of this VDOT STAR study, and we are also exploring potential treatments of the trail. So the VDOT STAR study came out with additional signage, pavement markings on the trail that cue users of the trail that they are approaching a crossing. We're considering and thinking about using different pavement patterns rather than doing like a rumble strip on the trail. So you have the asphalt trail, maybe it goes to concrete first, a 3-foot section, just to kind of give the user on a bike kind of that vibration of the changing patterns. Those are a couple things that we're still considering. There was a curb extension shown on this plan. We have asked staff if they could coordinate with RKK and VDOT on getting the underlying CAD file. You can see, let's see if this works right there, that little yellow area. They are proposing a little bit further of a curb extension that's there today. We'd like to see the geometry to see if it works operationally, but that would reduce the crossing by 3 to 4 additional feet. So those are all the things we're thinking about and actively studying.
Mr. Steiner.
Yeah, so
And then I'm
Jim,
going there and then I'm going to you.
Jim took the words right out of my mouth. So I will just say the road diet, I'm a big fan of that. That's a big piece of reducing these traffic fatalities. And I will underscore the need for a study at this intersection because it's a very janky thing that needs to be looked at. So that's all I'm gonna say there. Thank you.
I will also associate myself with Commissioner Tommy's comments, and I'm glad we're already thinking about what would need to happen if we don't get the timely responses from VDOT and our state government that we would love to have. Okay, Mr. Orantovich. I probably butchered your name and I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. You got it right. Thank
great.
you. Yeah. Let me pull my notes up. I got too many windows open. Yeah. So first of all, a lot of positives on this project from the transportation perspective. The reduction in curb cut frontage, the bike parking off of Custis Trail, the lane removal, the narrowing, the expansion of the Custis Trail. This is a clarifying question, but there is no separation of pedestrians and cyclists on the expanded section of the trail, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And has there been any discussion about potentially doing that?
Yeah, so that's been raised. We saw that comment a lot in the online engagement, and when the Custis Trails Needs Assessment study was performed, that also came up several times. And what was in the study is that the dual trail concept isn't recommended for the Custis due to the lack of width, the lack of availability of space. So what we were proposing and asking for is the 16 feet where feasible. And just for context, the lane at Langston Boulevard was reduced in 2020. So this used to be 3 lanes from Northland to North Oak, and they removed the lane. There is no sound wall. The lane was removed and the trail was expanded to 16 feet. And so what we've requested is you have to continue that in front of the sound wall. And so you'd have a nice consistent 16 feet, which should provide, pretty good separation between trail users and a nice consistent experience all the way from Northland Street.
And if I may just pick up on that too, we also have, and Taylor can speak to this as well, we do have that pedestrian zone that is adjacent to the building, which will provide an intuitive and safe separation between bicyclists and pedestrians that want to, get off the trail for that period of time there in front of the building.
Kind of looked like before in 2015 with the extra lane configuration there and some of the other improvements, and then what it is today, the expanded trail and the removal of the lanes.
Yeah. Is there a way to make the trail width 16 feet at the intersection instead of narrowing it back down to 12 feet? What's the what was kind of your decision-making process in that? Because you have kind of this going from 12 feet to 16 back to 12 in a pretty short distance.
Well, I think the understanding is that the public right-of-way accessibility guidelines require that ramps on either side of the street are the same width. So even though the trail along Key Bridge is 16, it narrows to 12 when you cross Oak. It needs to be 12 on the receiving side, which is our side of Oak Street, and then it can narrow, then it can widen back out again. But that is so the only way to get to 16 feet, which would be redo both, sort of completely redo the intersection, but the two need to be the same. That's why we're coming back down to 12.
Okay. Let me make a note of that. And then for Langston Boulevard, what is, the obvious question would be, the response would be VDOT, but in terms of the county, what is stopping us from advocating for narrowing the lanes down to 11 feet? Because we've seen this section is kind of presents a highway-like condition, and so any type of narrowing that we could get here, I think, would be useful, especially in light of the tragic accident that happened further down the road. I know that was involved a bus turning, but any narrowing would increase safety here.
Look at that.
Yeah, so I think that's more of a DES question than an applicant question.
I think DES was fun.
Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that.
I think DES is going to get back to you. Any other comments?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think the Commissioner Lantelmi has touched upon this as well, and kind of when you're coming up Langston Boulevard, turning onto North Oak, the whole road design incentivizes speeding, and I'm worried that people will be turning too quickly onto North Oak across the Custis Trail. So have we studied on the Marriott site side the possibility of a smaller radius in that curb, so not on the Marriott side, not on the applicant side?
No, we haven't looked at that, but I will note that if you look at the evolution of this intersection, I know it's still not perfect per se, but there's been a lot of improvements with the project to add the trail, including the right turn lane, and there's a no turn on red, so it's an exclusive right turn arrow there. And there's a signal improvements that were done. And if you look also on North Oak, that was reduced from 2 lanes to a combined 1 lane. So there, this intersection has evolved, and I think once we also get the sound wall out and really increase that field of vision, that we're gonna, this is an opportunity to create a very safe, big improvements in safety. To continue on what we've kind of been continuing on since 2020.
And I'll also add that the Marriott site is under active-ish redevelopment. It's currently subject to a special GLEP study, so that there are plans to redevelop that site in the future, at which point a narrowing of Langston Boulevard further than what's there now or what was envisioned during the last site plan approval, which is now expired, will also be explored.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it just kind of, I'm excited about the Marriott site redevelopment. The problem is that a lot of these things take years to develop, and so we're waiting for years for a safety improvement, such as a curb radius reduction that I think that DES and the county can do. I know that everything is kind of developer driven and organized according to sections, but I would. And when it comes to Transportation Commission, I think we'll be asking for some type of interventions. I know that DES has gotten a lot better and at kind of these tactical interventions, and this might be a good place for that, given that there's a high volume of cyclists and pedestrians moving on a trail, moving next to a very fast road. So. I don't want to take up anybody else's time. I think that's all I have on my list right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're up.
Yes.
Then you.
So, so PPOA, we are a community of pedestrians. We love walking. There are a lot of walkers in the community, and there are a lot of impacts in terms of safety, health and safety issues. I will say that since the change has been made from 2015 to 21, with the caveat that deceleration turning lane is too short because it can only really fit 2.5 cars. And we shouldn't make that same mistake as we move up the road, because I appreciate the fact that you're narrowing it, but you also need to make sure you have deceleration lanes and turning lanes, because otherwise you're going to cause new traffic problems. With cars going essentially on what was historically a highway, you need to give the opportunity for cars that are slowing down to turn, deceleration lane so they can turn safely without cars coming right up into their bumper from behind them. So it's important to keep that in mind, especially as we're looking for the turns into other parts of the PPOA community as you move west. I will say that since the changes have been made, and I drive that every day, I have noticed that drivers have been paying attention and following the rules. Pedestrians have been paying attention and following the rules. The one community that has not been following the rules, and from my personal experience, there were 3 cyclists that gave me a Cheshire grin as I had the right of way, and they were about to ram straight into me as I was making a left-hand turn. And they looked at me with a smile like, oh, I almost got away with it. And it took everything in me not to stop the car and get out and yell at them and say, you're putting multiple lives at risk with your completely irresponsible behavior. And this happens consistently across the Custis Trail. So if we're going to support the cyclists, they also have to show the same level of respect as we are giving to them, because they are not demonstrating respect back to pedestrians and to drivers. So the issues in terms of the safety of that stop has to be addressed. So whether we do rumble strips, whether we change the color, whatever it is, they have to understand that they have to stop when that light turns, and they're not doing that right now. So that's one. The other thing I wanted to clarify, as a number of people raised this, including a number of the commissioners, the garage entrance and exit on Oak, there is a setback, right? What is the setback from the garage entrance to the actual road? Because it goes into the building, right? So what is the actual setback? So when the driver is coming out of the garage, how much space do they have to see how many pedestrians are walking in front of them?
Yes.
Is this the new one? Could you pull?
Haven't seen this one.
Roughly 50 feet.
Yeah, okay, so, and you're proposing that it's gonna be well lit underneath that 24/7, right? Okay, so we should probably, if we need to also, if there are mirrors that need to be put in to make sure that there's no, I don't know if they're blind spots for the cars, but to make sure that the cars have enough room so that they don't run up out of the garage and there are kids walking with, or families walking with their dogs, so that they're aware that there are people that are gonna walk by. So I think that's another area that would be, but I think 50 feet will give you enough space to basically put the signage you need so that should not be an issue.
Is there gonna be a gate exiting?
Yeah, there should be a gate, right? There's gonna be a gate that's gonna open and close.
Not right there, but I think we can do texture or something so the car will come out slowing down instead of just driving.
Yeah.
So let's please.
Okay, those are my points. Thank you. I just had to make that
Nope,
point because
that's
I
fine.
deal with it every day. And it's literally the last 3 weeks, there have been 3 or 4 cyclists that have given me that treacherous grin. And it starts off your day or ends your day in a horrible way because it's irresponsible behavior.
Okay, so I do want to time check. We have 2 more topics after this. I'm gonna go with Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll go to Commissioner Peterson, and then I'd like to move us on to other topics.
Just general echo of the transportation comments thus far. I like the improvements. Just brief comment on the continuing maintenance just of the bike facilities. You know, that's kind of something that requires durability. I've seen new buildings, at least in the NOMA area in DC, where you put something in, then 2 to 3 years later, it's really just very basic, but maybe the continuing maintenance of that. I don't know how, it could be renting out spots since the location is so prime to the trail. Could be enough revenue to just cover that, but maybe get creative with that. But that's really my only comment.
Our condominium association will be responsible for maintenance.
Okay, so it's a common area. Okay, I see. Okay.
Commissioner Peterson.
I had a similar question as my gentleman over here, just about the widening of the bike trail, which oftentimes when we talk about streets, wider streets make people go faster. Do wider bike trails make people go faster? I know he said the reason we were widening it was for safety. So I guess I just wanted to better understand that, because with this new project here, we don't necessarily want cyclists to be going faster in this area. And so if you can explain like how a wider bike trail makes for a safer environment overall, considering there will be more pedestrians here.
Sure. So the 16-foot recommendation comes from the number of trail users expected in the future. And there's this level of service kind of chart, similar to level of service you would have like at an intersection. And based on the anticipated number of daily trips, that's where we get the 16 feet. So when you have this mix of users, you're also, you have the speed going down, but you also have the slow acceleration going up. Where
Which is
people are
easier these days with e-bikes.
Yeah, with e-bikes. So and you have e-bikes going different speeds. You have a large variety of trail users where if you have that additional room, those close calls, like this gentleman was talking about as a pedestrian, there's a lot more room for folks to navigate around each other and in a safer manner.
Just to clarify, you're talking about close calls when you're in a car.
I was in a car, but I've seen pedestrians that, have to jump out of the way too. I mean, coming down that hill, they're not stopping. They're just
Yeah,
accelerating down that hill.
It's very fast.
I would like to advocate that we need rumble strips. We need something there, because
Yeah,
I've seen that.
that's what I
And
wanted
it's
to ask.
just not, sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder there. Okay, Commissioner Peterson,
Well,
but it's just not.
And
Yeah.
rumble strips, or if there are other kind of bike calming measures that we can do
Yeah.
just to like.
How do we
let
make
people know
bikers go
they're-
slower?
Or just especially that area, like if you're up the hill, like there's not like a lot of pedestrians, but when you get to this point where we're introducing hundreds of new people.
Yeah, so what the STAR study recommends and what the applicant has shown in their improvements exhibit is the rumble strips. I think opening up that vision, that sight vision for folks is going to help a lot. So if a car is running a red or a bicyclist running a red, which is, there is a human nature aspect to that we look at when we talk about Vision Zero stuff. You can't necessarily, a sign isn't going to stop someone from doing something, a light isn't going to stop someone from doing something. But with the increase that sight vision, I think that's going to help a lot in increasing or decreasing the amount of crashes at this intersection.
I had a question.
Well, so are we, so rumble strips will be put here?
Rumble strips is what we've requested the applicant show, and they have provided this exhibit. So, and that is in conformance with what's shown in the STARS study as well, is signage and rumble strips. So that is that physical deterrent to running lights.
So
I was thinking of creating a crossing sign that comes down.
So I do, like, an actual question, I don't bike, because literally the last time I biked, I broke my elbow, so I don't bike. But I assume cyclists can be ticketed for running a red light the same way that a car can be. Right, so is there, sure, no, I'm saying, is there an intervention, like whether it's camera enforcement or something else that could also take place at that location? Is that a question for DES? I presume yes.
Yeah, there could be enforcement measures. When this intersection was improved in 2020, there was also the updating of the lights. So there is a video system here. There isn't a need to press a beg button if you're a pedestrian or cyclist. There's an exclusive pedestrian cyclist phase to that light. So every time you come through, there's a light exclusively for the trail users, but part of the regular cycle of lights.
Still not slowing the bikers down though.
Can I just add one thing? Because I think there's one thing we need to kind of consider is the topography. Because on our site, there's a 40 feet drop.
Yes.
And if you extend it, it's probably 60 or more. So there's a natural like downhill acceleration that we need to put in consideration to see how we can slow it down.
Yeah, I think rumble strips will help with that. I'm looking for other, if, I'm not trying to ticket every cyclist. I'm saying if we need to look at other external things in addition to rumble strips, I'd like, to put the county on notice that that's something that I think we're hearing that there's a problem. The problem may get worse because we want more people using the trail. We need to be prepared to take action for that, in my view. All right, I saw one more hand over here. I do want to say that we have 2 topics left and I'm moving us there in 90 seconds. So where was the hand that I just, was it your hand? I saw a hand. No?
Yeah, but mine is.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
All right. Then I see more hands on the internet people. Are those for the transportation topic still? Because I'm moving us on.
Yes, still transportation.
Okay, Mr. Radovic, one more time,
Yeah.
and then we'll go to.
Yes,
Mike.
just a quick general point. I mean, the discussion that we're having right now highlights the general importance of separating modes, minimizing these conflicts, and how that should be a best practice. I mean, I know it's kind of difficult right here. We have just a small road, North Oak, but pedestrians, cyclists, and cars should be mixing as little as possible. So less people get upset by Cheshire grins or other inconveniences, and which is a mild inconvenience relative to the serious safety issues that others have experienced, including losing limbs. So, thank you.
I see someone with the hand named Mike has raised a hand. Mike, who are you?
I'm a resident of Arlington County in Palisades Park.
Okay, great. So you would be a public speaker at the end if you wanted to speak, and I think they did a call asking for public speakers. Did you put your name on that?
I'm sorry. You want to repeat that?
Palisades Park.
So, sorry, you're here as a public participant, not part of the SPRC, so the matter is still with the SPRC members right now. So if you would like to give comments, it'll be at the end, and I will leave time for that.
Yeah, great.
Thank you. All right, I'm moving us to.
Very helpful.
Okay, cool. Open space and landscaping, which I think we talked a lot about. So I don't know if there's other topics too. Yep.
I just want to point out the difference in the proposed trail, I guess tonight versus the last SPRC presentation. Any comment on that, or what went into the development? Is that something that the Palisade Homeowner Association spoke to you about, or is that just a developer decision, or what went into that?
There's conversations with staff and the county. They asked us if we could look into expanding to 16, and for us, we thought that would be a good idea.
Oh, do you mean the trails within the?
So I guess the
sorry.
The mulch trail within the
Yeah, mulch trail. Sorry, yes. That was discussion with staff, Northern Conservation Trust, and internal discussions that really kind of making this connection was not kind of the best use right now. It's something we could potentially look at in the future, but we kind of wanted to scale back because there were so many concerns about what would happen to some of the trees, and taking away some of the critical root zones. As you can see, the higher you get up there, you have a lot
Yeah, I
more.
was gonna say, you're not sharing your screen, actually.
Oh, sorry.
Looking at
Sorry.
your screen.
I can see.
It's because I've been sharing everything I go on.
No, that's fine. I don't know how helpful. He was too nice to say anything, but you weren't actually sharing your screen.
Okay. There you go. So,
Taylor, go to the one with the slope on it that shows the steep slope.
oh, sure.
That might be more helpful, yeah.
Okay, so this is basically with talks to the county and Northern Conservation Trust. This is extremely steep. It would have taken kind of going back and forth, lots of steps. It was going to be hard to accomplish, really kind of not interfering with those root zones. So we just thought it would be a lot easier and better for the Conservation Trust and the conservation easement to kind of scale back our plans and really kind of look at this kind of smaller area where we can kind of weave a little bit easier through the trees and the critical root zones to kind of not impact that area in a negative way.
Okay, so, but there was, there was a request from the developer about adding the connection. We had, our own consultations with our hired professionals, including our insurance provider, our legal counsel, our engineers. And then we had multiple phone calls with the developer. The board of directors of the PPOA met and we voted against the proposal. I can tell you the reasons why. Based on the Conservation Trust very quickly. In order, because the slope is so steep, you would need an engineered structure in order for that to be safe for people to walk down from that height down to that level. You're not allowed to put an engineered structure in a Conservation Trust area. And therefore would not be, the engineers and the professionals, the subject matter experts from the developer didn't feel confident that they would be able to propose a structure that would be safe for pedestrians. And our insurance provider also advised against the PPOA, insuring that area, which was a request. And so we voted against the proposal and we shared that information with the developer. So there was no support from the board of directors for that proposal.
And just to build on that as well, just given the PPOA's current position regarding the connection to its property, our thinking was at most to identify a potential location of where that could occur somewhere along the northern property boundary, because the northern property boundary is owned by the PPOA. I know that there are some residents that are very, very interested in having that connection. And then we had some discussion with county staff in the last week or so, just about the best way to reflect this. My understanding is that staff would prefer us to come back in if a connection is made in the future for a site plan amendment or at least an administrative change at a minimum. Because the only way that they want to have this shown right now is if it's fully engineered and ready to go, which it's obviously not. And as of right now, with the current PPOA leadership, there's not a meeting of the minds to make that happen. So if there in the future, there was a decision to do that between the ownership and the PPOA, happy to do it. We see the benefits in doing it. It's just how do we memorialize that in the current zoning entitlements, given that we haven't fully engineered that. But proceed.
I don't have too much to add. I think it's been fully covered. We're listening to Palisades Park, of course, because it's their property, which the path would connect to. So we're hearing that loud and clear. And also from our perspective, less is more. Our DPR staff and planners have advised that there's a concern of soil erosion because of the topography and the sea grade change. So less is more here. So we are supportive of the smaller trail, but we are open to, discussions in the future, possibly of further connection if it's something that the community wants. So we're trying to take the community input and pair it with our subject matter experts and their advice. And Walter, do you have anything to add from DPR?
Hey, Chrissy. No, I think you've all touched upon it. Yeah, it's just kind of finding that balance on conservation easement area.
Okay.
Let me just say, I mean, it's not just an engineering issue, it's also an insurance issue. And it would be hard for us in the future. A board would have to vote against its fiduciary responsibility to follow the advice of its insurance and legal counsel. And God bless any board that does that, but I'm not going to be serving on that board. So, I mean, let's just be clear that the likelihood of this happening, I'm not going to say no, but it's probably not going to happen.
You're cutting into your construction advice time.
Sorry.
Commissioner Antonomy is the last speaker on this topic.
Yeah, I fully agree with action. So I think you guys made the right call on that. I thought from the beginning, the idea of a trail going up there, while it sounded great, didn't make any sense to me, given the steep slope there. It could never be ADA compliant if you really, other than tearing down all the trees there to go back and forth 18 times. So it's falling by the wayside, not a surprise to me. And I think it was the right decision. This is green space. Let it be what it is. Let it be a forest, an urban forest. And I think it works really well that way. And that's the way it should be. So, yeah, it worked that the insurance said no.
I mean, and again, if I may, again, it's been an evolving process over the last few days. Again, I know there are people that are adamant or very interested in having this connection, but I want to make it clear too, nothing that is approved here would prohibit us from coming back in for a minor site plan amendment to make that connection at such time that engineering and there's a meeting of the minds between the owners. And
Okay.
if that ever occurs, great. If not, then it can't legally occur anyway.
Okay, I'll associate myself with Commissioner Lantomi's comments, the others in the section. The last topic we have is going to be for construction impacts. I do believe we have at least one public speaker. Is that correct?
If Mike does want to speak, whether he
Okay.
signed up or not.
So we will reserve a minute or two for that. Construction impacts. Final topic.
Sarah,
Yeah,
can I interrupt really quickly?
I don't know, who is it?
Aaron, yes, he's.
Aaron, yes, you may. Aaron, I recognized you. Talk. Please.
I guess that the applicant talk a little bit about. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Ah, very good. Could I ask that the applicant talk
Now we can't hear you.
about
Aaron, I'm so sorry. We could hear you and now.
what sort of trees they plan to plant?
Okay, yes, we know the answer to this.
Okay,
Okay.
half the room heard what you said, half didn't, but the applicant thinks they know what you're saying.
All right,
So
um,
really quickly.
Yeah,
we're
Aaron, I
moving
think
on.
the question is, what kind of trees are gonna be planted in the buffer adjacent to the PPOA property? And Taylor, you can speak to that, because I think there was a strong desire to have year-round vegetation, as much year-round vegetation as possible, and we promised you an update on that.
Yes, we're looking at planting arborvitae green giant, which gets to be a very large evergreen tree, and we probably do a giant row of those right on the property line. So that would give you that nice buffer to the properties to the west. In front of that, we may have some more smaller evergreens and some
We're gonna go over.
ornamentals, but are really kind of those big ones in the back will really provide that buffer.
Okay, Aaron, does that answer your question? Okay, we're going to move. Claps, great, okay, yay. All right, construction impacts. I'll take it. Construction impacts, Commissioner Peterson.
So we've got our standard site plan conditions here, but these are somewhat negotiable. How negotiable really are the construction hours, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekends? I imagine having these longer hours means the project gets done faster. But I could imagine for families with young children, going until 9 p.m. can be hard, or at 7 a.m. if somebody's got like a late shift, that's also hard. So, I mean, are these actually negotiable?
We typically don't like to modify them, but if there was a request and proper justification for it, we would look at it. And these are the maximum hours. It's not, we're not setting construction hours with these conditions. They're just the maximum allowable window of what's permitted by the conditions by the notice ordinance.
So should the Palisades homeowners seek to negotiate with y'all for some sort of reduced, that's a conversation y'all are already having, I presume?
We will be.
We will be having that. There has to be a temporary easement discussion because
Okay, right.
they can't build a building if they don't come onto our property.
This is
Okay,
something
so
that
you
we
need them
negotiate with.
and there you go.
And they
Okay,
have
We've heard that.
they have to restore everything that they disturb on our property. And
Okay.
part of that negotiation will be the terms of the construction and also how it's going to impact ingress, egress. All of that will need to be negotiated.
okay, so it's one thing to have the county conditions, standard site plan conditions, but then there's the reality of actually building on the site. Where
Yes.
you need access provided by people who aren't you. Got it.
Correct. And to clarify, that's private, between two private property owners, so county has no
Right.
involvement there.
Yeah, right. Okay.
County's already
So-
set the standards.
Yes.
But and I want to make it very clear, we have indicated a willingness both to the PBOA and to at least one of the private residents that we are willing to negotiate on that and,
Okay.
come in on those hours. So.
Yeah.
I would presume that it's in everyone's best interest for y'all to have pleasant conversations in that regard, but correct. Nobody come at the county for that one because it doesn't involve the county. Okay. do you have other things on construction? I know you
Well,
wanted
I
to make sure
mean,
we covered that
yeah,
topic.
I mean, from construction impact, I mean, silt management, erosion management, water management. So just because we are so directly impacted by the construction timeline, you know, how are you planning to move large trucks in and out? If we can get something articulated on that, at least we can start sharing that with the owners. And then if you have an outline of a temporary easement structure that you want to negotiate with us, if you can provide us a template and I can share that with our attorneys and we can start that conversation.
Yeah, so we've gotten our general contractor to start looking at ideas about how construction could be phased. Also to draw up where the easements would be, potential easements would be located. And then it is typical for the requesting party to provide the form of the easement for review by your general counsel. So we'll be providing all that to you.
Okay, what's the timeline for that, you think, Andrew?
I don't know. But it would have to be certainly prior to CEP, you know, approval. So, yeah, I don't have the.
When is that? Is that the September?
No, the CEP would be after the zoning approval.
Okay.
Yeah.
So zoning would be September.
Correct.
What is the timeline between zoning approval and CEP?
It's approximately 1 year. Yeah. About 12 months. So there's a lot of time to negotiate out and to have it reviewed by.
Yeah, we won't still be meeting as an SPRC. We finish this up tonight.
And then you make a recommendation to the county board?
Just planning.
It goes to
Planning
planning commission.
commission.
Planning commission would make a recommendation to the
recommendation
county
to the county
board. And certainly the fact that, you know, this is a complicated site location where, you know, clearly there's strong communication between the Palisades, you know, existing development on site and the planned development. Clearly you guys have had close engagement already. So I think that's helpful for the planning commission to hear, but as Chrissy has said, that's external discussions between parties that are not the county. So we would not make a recommendation that would impact whatever y'all work out on your private terms.
But you guys have your own rules about site water management and silt runoff and erosion and the hauling,
that covered in
the
the
track,
standard
the
conditions?
trucks have
Yes.
to go a certain, like the hauling
Right,
routes and
yeah,
things like
yeah.
that. So those are controlled by the county. So it's not like we just get to do what we want.
No.
They're still.
Yeah, but we should
Yeah.
just have it clearly articulated so there's no misunderstanding.
Yeah, real brief though. Okay, anything else on construction impact? So I will recognize we're now over on time, which violates every fiber of my being because I run very tight meetings. Okay, Commissioner Torres asked you to recognize on one unrelated point or external point.
Sorry, I had one more thing. This is Alyssa with NVCT.
Okay.
And I apologize if this fell under environmental impacts because it's related to the conservation easement, but I just wanted to request per the conservation easement and make sure that the applicant and developer knew that the conservation easement area needs to be flagged and just like physically demarcated the areas of the conservation easement during construction so that there's no accidental impact to the conservation area.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank
Was
you.
that a site plan condition or is that still a private?
They also have Tycoon should have an agreement with with NBCT, so that should also be private, but we can look into it.
Okay, it might be worthwhile since there's a conservation easement right here that we see if there should be a standard county condition related to that. I don't know the answer. We should have a conversation. Sure. Okay, now Commissioner Torres.
There's another hand up though.
That's the public speaker. We'll get to that at the end.
Just want to make a general comment, and this is for the staff as well. In terms of architecture, it's changed a lot. Like I can really visibly see how it's changed, where it used to have more pronounced ring-like forms around the building, and now it doesn't really have that same feature. And so I'm a little bit disappointed that it's changed. So maybe in the future, architecture should be left till the end because it almost looks like the design wasn't fully fleshed out. I don't know. I don't know if it was value engineered or if it wasn't fully fleshed out, but the renderings don't look the same. So that's a big concern for me because I'm wondering if it's gonna change again. And I don't know, I don't really like that.
Was that actually the metal change that we did? Yeah.
It's a lot
So
more
it-
than that. There's a lot of
It
material.
was shiny before and now it's not. So it's not, we took out the silver part and we did two different gold tones. So
There's
it
also-
changed, it doesn't like,
There was also a datum lines are popping out, especially along, is it 66? Yes. That
It can't
now that
turn
just
apart.
looks like two volumes that are just twisting. It doesn't really look like there's a lot more detail and texture on that side. And I know that most people won't care, but that actually provides shadow lines that gives that elevation interest. So now it looks like it's just curtain wall, just doing this. And that's the longest elevation. And then another thing is, I'm hearing that maybe the sound buffer walls are not going to be removed. For projects like this, I think you should at least provide one image of what it's going to look like if that's not going to go away. Because even if it takes 2-3 years, that's going to affect the look of it, the architecture, the design. And I don't know where that's going to, affect the elevation or how it's going to go. But you're showing us these beautiful renderings, but that's if everything goes well and if everything, is perfect, which I don't think it's going to be. So, and then the last thing is, Commissioner Amadeo gave you guys some beautiful pointers about the architecture with relationship to the side vegetation and maybe looking at how the courtyard could be moved because that could have tied into what was already there, yet you decided to focus on the shorter end, closer to the conservation. So maybe that could be an L-shaped vegetation, not just a buffer, with the conservation area. So I don't know, I know that those are things that we discussed and I wish we would have
sorry, hold
done.
on one second. I want to make sure Tyler's following that because I didn't, but I'm not the one who designs it, so. I want to make sure he got what
I think
you
we should talk
said.
about the architecture first and what the differences are between the images last time.
Okay, I want to acknowledge that architecture, we understand that there are always going to be changes in the process, and so architecture has to be discussed at some point in time. I think typically we do architecture during the first SPRC, but sometimes there's feedback that does impact the second SPRC. So I do want to acknowledge and, respond to Commissioner Torres' comments, but I do not want to make that another topic of the evening.
So I will just say this, we spent at least half an hour to 45 minutes talking about traffic that's 2D. And most people don't perceive that, right? You see the danger when it really happens, but it's 1%, 5% of the time where there's a horrible accident. Architecture is 3D. You're gonna see it. You can't miss it. And we're not focusing enough on it, like at all. So I don't know, there's a disconnect. The architecture is probably the most important part because everybody actually sees that. And yeah. So.
Okay, I do want to give the applicant a chance to respond.
You say anything?
I think inherently the design has remained the same. I mean, we have the movement along Langston Boulevard. The stepping has been the same because it's recommended by the Plan Langston Boulevard, and we went over the deviations of last time. The base of the building has remained the same as the stone poly material with the lighting along the activation for both North Oak and Langston Boulevard. And then the middle and top has remained glass and metal panel. The renderings now have been enhanced to represent correctly the materials that we are proposing, which was requested at the last SPRC.
It's not just about materials, but okay.
I will also add that it is very common and expected through procedurally for the evolution of the architectural to advance throughout the SPRC and the county review process. So we see this on most projects and it almost always is an advancement in a positive nature.
Also, with it because of the screen, because if you look at this one versus that one, it gives you a different coloring.
So just to point out one small detail that jumps out at me and not you guys. In your previous presentation, you didn't have the fins that were separating the apartment units, right? That wasn't pronounced. And so that's why I'm saying maybe the architecture should be resolved in this SPRC, because if you see the fins that are separating the apartment units, there's no rhythm to it, at least from what I'm seeing. Maybe that will change. Whereas it could actually line up with the fins that you have in the first and second floor. And so therefore it would make sense to me. Those kinds of details are really, really small. But to me, that bothers me because it just doesn't make sense. And that's obviously because.
You're talking about the demising between the balcony.
Right.
Okay.
So that means that either the floor plan changed or that just wasn't added before, which is gonna be visible.
Okay, got it. I mean, we'll make sure they all light up.
Thank you for clarifying what you were seeing that was different that we might see. There's a lot.
Okay, so is there anything else? I think we've resolved. Okay, I think that, generally speaking, yes, the agendas can be, fluctuate a little bit. I do think that generally speaking, doing architecture early has, in the first SPRC rather, is typically gives more of a chance to have that feedback back, but that doesn't mean that the project is not going to continue to change. So I think that may be a bigger conversation across the planning commission that we can talk about when the right time to have that is. I think there may be some disagreement on sort of when is, that timing, it makes the most sense and is most beneficial to the process, to the community, to the applicant, to we, as a body. Okay, did Mike give us the last name?
No. Are you ready for public speakers?
Yes, I think we are ready for public speakers. I apologize, we have gone a little bit over on time tonight. But Mike, take it away. I believe you're our one and only public speaker.
And please state your first and last name and your affiliation, if any.
I believe it's the Palisades.
Yeah. Are you looking for comments now from the public?
Yes, you're up, Mike. You got 2 minutes.
Okay. Oh, great. 2 minutes. Great. Let me just suggest that if this is supposed to be a public meeting, that you might go to comments from the public after each category, so they're relevant to the discussion, to the topic that you're discussing, instead of leaving them to the very end. It really is a folly to suggest that this is a quote unquote public meeting. So let me just say that with respect to the traffic issues on Langston and Oak Street, it's true that something needs to get done with respect to the cyclist coming down the Custis Trail going across Oak Street. I personally have taken 2 cyclists off the pavement in recent years because they didn't stop at the don't walk sign. It seems to me that a relatively simple solution to this might be some enforcement at that intersection from time to time by Arlington police or some type of enforcement authorities. I have never seen an Arlington police person at that intersection to enforce that type of infraction. So it seems to me that that might be one way to start to provide for safety for all persons, pedestrians, cyclists, and people in vehicles. So that's what I wanted to say some minutes ago, probably 20 minutes ago, which might have been make a lot of sense to say in relation to the discussion at the time as to all of the other categories, whether it's architecture, traffic, or whatever. So thanks, Sarah, for conducting the meeting in a way that apparently diminishes the public's input to your meeting. Thanks.
Well, I'm just going to encourage that we do have representation from the Palisades at the table here. So, please coordinate also with.
No, Sarah, that the Palisades Park people have not authorized that individual to make comments on behalf of the community.
Thank you.
There's nothing that we, there's nothing, Sarah, there's nothing we've acted on.
He seems fun. Okay. That is our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Does he live in Palisades?
And you.
Oh, you